If you're anything like me and you can't draw to save your life, you might think that creating animated videos is something that's just never going to happen for you. But you'd be wrong. Even if you struggle to draw a simple smiley face, you can still create some really nice animations in next to no time without ever lifting a crayon. In this video, we're going to look at how you can take a few stock vector images, do some simple prep in Illustrator, and turn them into living, breathing animations in After Effects. The first thing we need to do is find some nice vector images for our project. So you can go to websites like Stock Unlimited, FreePic, or the Noun Project to find lots of really good, high quality and well designed vector images. The first thing we need to do is to delete all of the stuff from this image that we don't need. Then we need to create a layer for each section of the image and move all of the elements that make up these sections onto those layers. This means that each section is assigned to its own unique layer and we can animate it separately later on in After Effects. Let's start by getting rid of all of the stuff we don't need for our animation. All we want here is the cyclist and the bicycle, so we can delete everything else by clicking on it and hitting delete. Next, we want to take all of the elements that make up this wheel and put them onto a new layer which we'll label back wheel. Now when I'm doing this, I like to turn off the visibility of the layer because it makes it easier to see which elements I haven't moved yet. So now we just start selecting each element and dragging it to the new layer. As each element is moved to the wheel layer, it disappears and we can see what else we have to move. The same goes for the other wheel, which we're going to label front wheel. Sometimes splitting an image into layers like this can be a little bit tricky. You might need to move objects between layers or move different layers forwards and backwards to make sure it all looks right. Now, depending on how good a job the original artist did when they created the image in the first place, this might be a nice simple job that takes a few minutes, or it might be a bit more complicated and take a bit longer. But use your common sense. If it looks like it's going to take hours or even days to tidy up this image, just cut your losses and find another image and use that instead. There's no sense wasting time tidying up an image when you can find something that's just as good and keep the work going. Here we have the problem that when we move the backpack to a new layer, it obscures our character's arm. So what we do here is move the arm to a new layer and then move it above the backpack. Now we make sure that our layers have meaningful names because this makes it easier later on in After Effects, and save the whole thing as an Illustrator file, not as an SVG file. Over in After Effects, we're going to import our layered Illustrator file. To keep the layers we spend so much time creating in Illustrator, we need to make sure that we import the image as a composition and not as footage. This image is imported into its own pre-comp. Now you don't have to keep the image in this pre-comp, but it can help keep things nice, neat and tidy and easy to reuse. But before we do anything else, we're going to hit Ctrl-A on our keyboard, then we're going to enable continuously rasterize to keep our image nice and crisp and clear, and then motion blur so that animations look more natural. Now in After Effects, the anchor points are essential for making your animations work the way you want them to work. Now take a look at this wheel. The anchor point isn't at the center of the wheel, so if we rotate it, the rotation is all wrong and not very wheel-like. So we're going to hit Y on our keyboard and use the anchor tool to drag the anchor points to where movement should start from. So in this case, into the center of the wheel. Next, we want to set the anchor point for the ponytail so that it's near the base of the skull. Now you'll see why in a minute. Now that everything is laid out properly in After Effects and our anchor points are set correctly, we can start using keyframes and expressions to change the rotation, the size, the position, the opacity of our elements and create some really nice animations. Now, if you want to be a bit fancy and create some organic looking movement, you can use expressions. Here we're going to alt-click on the stopwatch and add a wiggle expression to create a random amount of rotation to simulate our cyclist's hair blowing in the breeze. We're going to have our ponytail rotate randomly by up to 15 degrees 3 times a second. Now, it goes without saying that you should tweak this until you're happy and it looks the way you think it should do. Now, to make our wheels turn, we're going to create a couple of keyframes to get the wheels moving at the right speed. Now, our first keyframe goes at the start of the timeline. Then we go forward 2 seconds and set the rotation to 1 complete rotation. Now, the problem here is that it only turns once and then it stops. So the easiest way to keep the wheel turning forever is to use a loop out expression. So we're going to alt-click on the stopwatch, type the loop out expression in the expression area. Now, that's one wheel done. So to get the other wheel moving, we just copy our keyframes and paste them onto the other wheel. The cool thing about this is that it also copies the expression, so you don't have to do that a second time. Now, what we've just done is pretty easy and it works quite well, but if we ever want to change the speed of those wheels, we have to remember to change the keyframes on both layers. Thankfully, there's an easier way to do this, but it takes a few more steps to get it done. Instead of keyframing each wheel, an easier way to do this is to create a null object, go to expression controls and add an angle control. All we need to do now is just add keyframes to create one full rotation like we did before. Now we're going to use the pick whip to parent each wheel to the angle control. Now don't forget to use a loop expression to keep the wheels turning indefinitely. What this means is that you can now control both wheels at the same time using one simple controller. Let me know if you found this useful or if you have any comments, questions or suggestions. If there's anything you'd like to see me do a video about in the future, just get in touch with me and let me know. See ya.